Hello YouTube and welcome to another episode of The Cloudy Vape. In this video we're going to be doing a build on the Orchid V4 Clone by Tobeco. Words of warning before we get going on this build: sub-ohming is always at your own risk. Always make sure you're using a high amperage battery. An IMR battery is always the best to use, so never skimp out and always get the best battery you possibly can. Without further rambling, let's dive down and build this. Okay, so for this build we're going to need a few things. Of course we're going to need the Orchid V4. Let's go ahead and unscrew it. Get the deck out where we want it, unscrew your top cap, and then get that stem off of there. Of course the stem came off with it because it wasn't tightened down. So here is the deck we're going to be building on. Now I would recommend using some 26 gauge kanthal. You can also use 24 gauge kanthal if you want to sit it at a lower ohmage, and follow along also using 24 gauge kanthal. So let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to be using a 5/64 drill bit for this. If you do not have this size of drill bit on hand, you can also use the blue screwdriver that comes with this device. And as always, make sure you have an ohm reader handy. Also some clippers and a screwdriver will always help for this. I'm actually using the Allen wrench screws on the top of this device, so I'll have a little Allen wrench for that. But if you're using the Phillips head screws, make sure you have a screwdriver in order to tighten down the coils once we put them in. So let's go ahead and look up close, and let's go ahead and wrap these coils. So I have about a 6-inch piece in length of this 26 gauge kanthal. I have my drill bit, and let's go ahead and wrap these. I go ahead and start from the top and then wrap under. So let's go ahead and do one wrap. We want a total of 10 wraps. Alright, so here we go. This is what it should look like. Go ahead and make an identical coil exactly the same. Make sure your leads are pointing down, both in the same direction. And then let's go ahead and fire it up and actually crimp down the coils before we put them in. So now what we need to do is heat up these coils and get them nice and tight before we put them down in the device. I was actually challenged by one of my viewers to show how I do it on a stovetop. So here you go. So once that coil's nice and hot, just go ahead and crimp it down like you would any other coil. Now heat it up again, let it heat up for about 10 seconds, pull it off, crimp it down again. Alright, there you go. So here are the coils all heated up and tightened down. Let's go ahead and put it in the RDA. But first, you have to bend one of the leads. So here we go. Let's push out one of these leads. Let's go ahead and do this top lead right here. Just go ahead and get a firm grip on that coil, and then just bend out that lead towards the right of the coil. So it should be like that. And then let's take this one, same exact side, take that lead, bend it out to the right a little bit. That'll give you a little bit of wiggle room when you're actually putting it in the device, and it'll help you center it in the actual RDA. So let's go ahead and pick a side, any side. Kind of like the plume bill, we want to stagger our positive connections. So we want to connect to, let's say here and here. We want to connect to those two and then stagger the other ones and put them in. So let me put the leads in and you'll see where they're actually popping out. So if you see right there, I'm staggering one positive connection and going to the other. It just helps to get more room and to help to center that coil over that airflow. Alright, there we go. There's coil number 1. If you see these holes right here, this is your airflow. So you want to get the coil directly over that airflow. So let's go ahead and just adjust it a little bit so it's over that airflow. But you want to also make sure that this coil is not going to touch this shell that goes over this. You want to get it closer to the post than the edge, because you do not want to have a short. You don't want to have the coil touching the shell on the outside. So I'd say about right there is good. Let's go ahead and tighten down the negative lead that's in right now. Be careful when you're tightening these down, because I have broken the kanthal a few times. Now that that negative connection's down, let's go ahead and put the drill bit back into it so we can just kind of put it where we want it. What you need to do is just kind of straighten out that coil up a little bit. So what I do is I just kind of put my fingernail on the edge of that coil and then just give it a little push to get it in the center. Just kind of push it over a little bit. So the more center we can with that airflow, the better. So I'm going to say that's about good. Alright, so I'll say that's about good, and let's go ahead and tighten down the positive connection. Alright, let's have a look at it now. This is about where I want it. It's just a little bit above that airflow. It's pretty well centered. It's a little bit justified to the negative side, but it's pretty well centered, so let's just go with that. Again, you want to just have a little bit of room underneath for the airflow, and then also you want to make sure you're not touching the positive or the negative connection back here with the coil. You want to kind of just sit it, if you look directly up, you want to sit it a little bit back from that airflow, but you also want to have it over the airflow, just slightly back, closer to the post rather than closer to this shell, because once we put this shell on, we don't want to have any shorts. We also don't want to have that coil touching the shell that goes over this. Now let's go ahead and clip these leads. Make sure you clip as close to the post as you possibly can. Just make sure there'll be room for that second coil and that the leads are not actually touching that second coil, so you want to make sure you clip it nice and close to the post. So let's go ahead and clip it. Alright, there's one. Let's go ahead and clip that other one. There you go, nice and clean. Now let's go ahead and insert the second coil. As I mentioned before, this lead that we bent out, that needs to be your negative connection, and the straight lead needs to be your positive connection. So let's go ahead and put it in. And just like the Plumeville build I did, you do want to bend up your positive connection just a little bit so it kind of dips above the second coil. Because if I put this in, you'll see what's going to happen is I'm just going to be poking. If you see closely, I'm basically just putting it in. It's not going. I'm poking the second coil in there. So what you need to do is kind of make a horseshoe on this lead, this one right here. So if this is straight, go ahead and grab it and bend it up. So if you see right here, I kind of bent up the positive lead. That'll help it dip through and go right above the second coil, just so you're not, you have some room in there. So let's go ahead and put this other one in. Mind my fat fingers while I do this, you might not be able to see it. So what we want to do is go ahead and get our negative connection in first. So let's go ahead and put that in, and then kind of bend up. So kind of bend it up now that you're in, and then hook, just go ahead and hook that other one, the positive connection in. If you see like this, just hook it in. So if you look now, that positive connection just hooked in and went right above that second coil that's already in there, so we don't disturb that coil. And then your negative lead is also in, and now we just need to adjust where we want it to be. So let's go ahead and put that drill bit back in, and then again let's straighten it out a little bit, get it centered about where you want it. So I want it out just a little bit like that. What I'm going to do now, if you can see, I kind of centered it where I want it. I'm going to hold that down, and then I'm going to go ahead and tighten that negative connection. Alright, now I have that negative connection tightened down. Now what I want to do, as we did with the first coil, put your nail right on the edge of that, and then just give it a nice push to kind of straighten it out a little bit. It'll really help if you have a micro screwdriver with a kind of handle on it, because that'll let you push over a little bit. I don't have a micro screwdriver this small, so I'm just doing it this way, but I would definitely recommend getting a micro screwdriver for this size. Now all you got to do is kind of match up this coil with the other one we just put in, kind of straighten it out exactly where you want it. Make sure it's over that airflow, raised up just a little bit, and also pushed over just a little bit so it's centered just a little bit more than it is right now. So let's go ahead and put that drill bit back in it and try to center it just a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and tighten down that positive connection. I have it about where I want it. I'm going to tighten down that positive connection and then go ahead and straighten it out just a little bit more. Now remember, when you do tighten down these leads, it does bend the coil up just a little bit depending on where the lead is. So as you can see, it kind of bent it to the side like this. So now I just want to straighten them out just a little bit. So I'll go ahead and turn them around so you guys can see this. Again, mind my fingers. Let's say about right there is good. Let's pull it out just a little bit. Okay, now I have it about where I want it. And let's go ahead and tighten down all the connections. Make sure all the connections are nice and snug. Do not tighten it down too much, because I have found with this device that it does it does tend to break. So let's go ahead and tighten them down. Now let's go ahead and clip the leads. Just remember, try your best when you're clipping the positive lead to not disturb this other coil. If you do, just put your drill bit back in there and get it to where you need it to be. If you damage the coil too much, you might have to take it out and put a new coil in, but as long as you're careful, you shouldn't damage that. Alright, let's look at what we got. Let's go ahead and put this on the ohm meter and see what the ohms read out. It should be at about 0.5, maybe a little less, let me see, 0.49. So that's close enough. I was shooting for about 0.5, 0.49. Let's go ahead and put it on a device and dry fire it up, see how the coils actually heat up. You might have to do a little bit of crimping, but hopefully if we tighten them down right, they should fire up pretty even from the inside out, so let's look. That's pretty good. I think one of them's firing a little bit quicker. So if you're having issues with the coils not firing up evenly, just go ahead and get some tweezers and just pinch the coils side by side and wiggle it around a little bit. If it's still heating up unevenly, go ahead and put that drill bit back in it and just wiggle it a little bit and pull it out again. Go ahead and fire it up again and then use your tweezers again to pinch it down. So just make sure these are always heating up from the inside out. So I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch width of cotton. Now with this Japanese cotton, you want to peel off the top part and the bottom part, just a little shielding that's on it. It's still cotton, but it's just a different grit of cotton. So let's go ahead and twist these up. Usually with this Japanese cotton, I'll just twist each side like this. That way I have a nice point to feed into the coils. So just twist those up. Now what you want to do is just cut it right in the center. So find the center and then just cut it. Now go ahead and take one of your pieces of cotton and just feed it in. Let's go ahead and feed it in right here. Pull it through. What you want to do is you want to pull it through and then kind of just fluff that cotton. Let it kind of be kind of fluffy. And then you want to clip off the point over here. The trick is you kind of want to clip off right where the shell goes on. The stem kind of screws in. So you want to just clip it right on the edge. So let's go ahead and cut this. What I do is I kind of just butt my scissors up to the edge and then cut it. Same on this side, butt my scissors up to the edge and cut it. So that's what it should look like. Now what you want to do is cut the cotton even closer. Essentially you want to have that cotton laying right on the edge of those wells right there. So if you just clip it just a little bit closer. So there you go, that's what it should look like. You want to have just a little bit of cotton kind of overflowing on the well. You don't want to clog up those channels too much. You want to get the juice to that coil. So you want to just make sure you have a little bit overflowing. Definitely don't try to clog up that entire channel. You just want a teeny bit going down the top of the channel. Now what we need to do is just saturate the cotton with juice a little bit because we want to kind of shape the cotton where we want it. So let's go ahead and just drip a little bit of juice on it. Don't be afraid, you can always clean up when you're done. Now once you saturate that cotton, just fire it up a little bit. Now the reason for doing that, you want to break in the cotton just a little bit so you can move it around. So you want to kind of shape it so it goes near the channels. You don't want the cotton in the threading too much because that'll flood. You want your best to just try to put it in the channels. So if you see right here, just kind of move it into the channel a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. The most important thing is that you don't have too much cotton in the threads because that will actually flood the tank. So just make sure that cotton is kind of just going down in the well. So all you got to do now is just put your top stem on. Now wipe off any excess. Go ahead and put your top part on. Now you want to unscrew this part, the top cap, so we can put some juice in it. Alright, once your juice is in, just screw it down and we're good to go. Alright, there we go, it's all built. Let's go ahead and pull it to the other camera view and talk about it. So I hope you found this video helpful. I really enjoyed this build. It's a nice medium between a mech mod or a variable voltage device, depending on what you want to use. It works great on both types of devices, so that's definitely why I wanted to do this build. And if you guys have any questions, or if you have any concerns, or anything that you're having trouble with when you're actually doing this build, go ahead and shoot me an email, cloudy.vape@gmail.com, or go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what your concerns are, and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please like it. And if you like my videos in general, please subscribe. And as always, stay classy and keep vaping.